Hello, everyone, you beautiful souls. I am so thrilled that you are joining us today. I'm Cindy Kavika, and with me, of course, our co-hosts Lorelei Robbins and Shanani Gannell, and Ferris Poole is here, our producer. He's here today because I'm not feeling too good. So I'm going through this detox thing, and I'm kind of losing my voice. So he's standing in case I lose my voice completely. So this is the Soul View, and this is where we take a look at what's happening in the news and look at it from a soul's perspective. You know, we've gotten some emails lately where people are confused on what it is that we're doing. They think that we are excusing bad or dark behavior, and that's not the case at all. So I want to do a disclaimer. Many times, you know, at the beginning of shows, they do a medical disclaimer. Well, this is our disclaimer for the Soul View here, and that is there is a universal principle to uphold the law of the land. There is also free will. So someone can choose not to uphold the law of the land. When you witness or experience an injustice, it is okay to rise up and act. You can prosecute or protest or march or sign petitions or donate or raise funds, whatever you want to do to act. Yes, injustice happens, but it's only part of the story. There's also the soul view of what is happening, hence the name of our show. When there is disorder on earth, everybody, you've heard me say this so many times, when there's disorder on earth, there is order in heaven. Disorder or injustice gives us, each of us, an opportunity for soul's growth. You can still prosecute and protest and march, whatever it is that you want to do, and organize if you so choose. It is the recognition that we have an opportunity for our soul's growth. We can, let me explain it this way. When we are in heaven and we have a soul contract before we come into this earth, and we say, you know what? I want to learn about forgiveness. So someone has to step up to the plate and say, I volunteer to come into your life and be a total ass so that you can achieve your soul's growth, which is forgiveness, to learn about forgiveness. Whatever that soul opportunity is for you, it's there. So in each situation, and again, it's not condoning the situation. There is, you can still prosecute somebody and for what they've done wrong and say, but on a soul level, I thank you because now I know how to forgive, or I'm learning how to forgive, or because of this, I've learned to, to see the world in a much broader way than I did before. So there is a soul's growth. And I would like both you and Lorelei and Shivani and Ferris to, if you'll just jump in and kind of reiterate what I said.
Well, I wanted to jump in because when you started talking about exactly what you just said, I thought of the book by Neil Donald Walsh, The Little Soul in the Sun.
That's it, yeah.
That's exactly where, and where the little soul says, in other words, it's sort of like, what's my purpose here? Oh, my purpose is to forgive. And then the friendly soul says, yes, I'm going to come in and I'm going to do something so awful to you. And that's how you're going to learn how to forgive. So that's where I went when you started telling that. I remember I have that book. And
I have that book also.
Yeah.
I have that book also, which is why I use that example. And, it is true. And the thing is, whoever that soul is in heaven, at a soul level, that steps up to the plate and says, I'm willing to be an asshole for you.
Exactly.
Whoever that is loves you that much. Always remember that.
Yeah.
Because if we don't, we can lose our soul on this earth through hatred and anger and judgment of other people. And you don't want to lose yourself. Last week I asked the question, you're only as free as, and you're only as free as, one of them was, you're only as free as your judgments allow you to be. So you can have a prison of your own making. So Shivani, I'd love to hear from you too.
I'm sorry. I'm also under the weather a little bit. Yeah, look, I basically
weather or the physical weather.
Yeah.
Are you under the cosmic weather?
It's the body weather, I think. Yeah. Look, I totally agree with what the two of you said. I also believe that the soul is here to literally experience itself in different situations in order to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And quite often, I think if you have a look at humanity, quite often we don't learn very well when we are happy and we are just going through life. Quite often we literally have to be struck by, by a brick or have something that stops us in our tracks, and it feels uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it feels scary. It feels, whatever we are experiencing, and through that, the forgiveness or the love or the, whatever, the trust, the growth comes.
Mm-hmm.
I remember saying to my daughter and my granddaughter, my grandson, many times, do you always have to learn everything the hard way? We all do. We all have to learn things the hard way. We do. So, we don't learn our greatest lessons, our best lessons in life by everything going right.
I think the biggest, in inverted commas, enemy or the biggest adversary that you have in life is actually your biggest teacher.
Yeah,
if you allow it.
And again, you can let that emotion just consume you, that hatred, that anger, that frustration, the injustice, to consume you, and it becomes a prison of your own making. And that is something that you can let go by saying, yes, I'm still going to prosecute you, or whatever the circumstances are, whatever's going on. And I'm going to send you love and light and work towards forgiveness. I have somebody in my life that I'm still working towards forgiveness. It's been a long time, but I do work at it because I want to get there. And I know that I can. And it was a great injustice, and he's sitting in jail for a 20-year sentence. And I think about him all the time. And I'll get there. I'll get there.
Yeah, and I think I remind myself that we are all perpetrators as well, because it's quite easy, relatively easy, to move from victimhood into empowerment, but then to actually look at the part within us that is a perpetrator, much harder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so. And that is the thing, Hitler, whoever you want to talk about, who is obviously a perpetrator, they have that energy out in the world, but there's also a part within us.
Well, that's why
we've done atrocities, might not be this lifetime, but we have that memory that is part and parcel of who we are.
Well, and that's why all forgiveness is really self-forgiveness, just because of that. I mean, we are the victim and we are the perpetrator. And, the energy right now is really emotional because we're coming up on a new moon in Cancer, which again, Cancer is the most personal emotional. It's all about safety and security and family. And it's an eclipse, and eclipses are opportunities for change. So, one of the true senses of security, we think it's the money in the house and all of that's wonderful, but the true security is when we really align the soul in the physical body, when we really, the whole word embody that has taken on this whole new meaning for me. I've known the word forever, but all of a sudden it's dropped down to another level. And that's really where the safety and security comes from, is when I know that my soul inhabits this vehicle that I'm in. But there's no question that everybody's emotions could be up now, reactivity, having an opportunity to look at and process through dysfunctional family patterns and change them. that's the beauty of an eclipse. It's like, oh, this served me. Now, wow, I now see that I've had this over dependency on this person, or they've had this dependency on me, whatever it is. But, I bet you if we did a show of hands for who wanted to kind of stay in bed today and pull the covers up over their
Yes.
That would be, I think, all of us.
Yeah.
Okay, raise a hand in this group. Okay. Yeah. So, by the way, I meant to say earlier, if you are feeling that too, get in bed and pull up the covers and you can grab your cup of tea or whatever, and then you can watch from there.
That's right.
You can totally take a passive approach today. It's all right. And if you would like to comment, please, we would love to hear from you. We have comment box, of course, to the side where you can where you can put the comments in. And do we have any comments yet? Just say hi, everybody. And if you're on Facebook, you can go ahead and put some comments in below and your own way of phrasing what we have said. We love to hear from you because everyone expresses what we are saying from a different viewpoint, and would love to hear what you have to say. If you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube later, then please leave your comments below. If you like this video, high five the thumbs up button. And if you would like to subscribe to our channel, we would love to have you follow us as well. So, Ferris, I want to ask you now, and we'll continue on, Lorelei, in just a moment, but I want to ask you if you have anything additional that you'd like to add to what we've said.
We tend, when we see a perceived wrong, and the degree of wrongness of anything is how it affects me. That's the way it works.
Or me.
Well, yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
No, just me.
Exactly.
We didn't even rehearse this.
When we see that or feel that wrong, we often rush to say, okay, I shouldn't judge this. And what you're doing then is you're judging the judgment. You should feel it. And acknowledge that you feel it.
That's such an important point,
Yeah.
Ferris, because, I tried to get to forgiveness too fast. As you know, Ferris, you went through the whole circumstances, and I had the blow up of emotions, and I tried to get to forgiveness too fast. When I said I'm working on it, that's all any of us can ask from ourselves. We have to get there. And that's part of the journey, is getting there and letting it release from your body. If you hold it in, emotions held in, we know causes cancer, and as well as other autoimmune disorders. If you're expulsive, then it's heart disease, high blood pressure, those kind of things. So we have to express ourselves, but do it in a healthy way.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I remember being in radical forgiveness workshops with Colin Tipping, and first taking the workshops and then being helping him, or holding the space. And that first step of radical forgiveness is tell the story and have it witnessed. So it's be the victim, whatever it is. It's like tell the story, and then the second step is feel the feelings. So that's where we get, that's where we go. And he calls it the spiritual bypass. If one doesn't allow the vomiting of that, if you will, and feeling every single bit of it. And if there were ever a time to feel stuff, we've got a grand trine in water now. So the ability to tap into feeling and to be able to release it and let it go and take from it what it has to teach us is huge now for everybody, no matter how anybody's wired. So I really appreciate what you're saying, Ferris, because that's so true. And I remember watching myself and others, beating pillows with something just in order to express it, whoever that was. It's just energy.
Yeah. And I think it's okay
and when you forgive, others or yourself, that doesn't mean you're releasing them from responsibility.
Right. Totally.
Right.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
mean, you're actually freeing yourself because you're taking the energy that you've had over there because you've been thinking of them and being upset back to you. Yeah.
This is really a very appropriate conversation given the weather now, given the cosmic weather, just in terms of all of this. Because as I said, some people could feel like they're drowning in their feelings now, possibly, like where's the lifesaver? Where's the raft? And it's kind of like being in the ocean and then and surrendering to the wave, like a wave. I remember my father telling me that years ago on Long Island at Jones Beach. And he'd say, if you get caught in a wave, if you don't dive under it, deeply enough, if you get caught in a wave, he said, just like, put your arms out, and I remember that in my head as a kid going, okay, the sand's in my bathing suit. I don't like the way this feels, but I'm just going to do what Daddy said, and it worked. I mean, the point is, and it would make sense that I would have a childhood memory, or that any of us would be having childhood memories now, either that serve us or don't serve us. So sort of like being able to pick and go, oh, this is a good one. I'm going to take this into this next cycle in my life. Well, that one, I'm still kind of coming from infantile behavior over here. I better shore up my mommy skills before I go out and do this thing. Really?
Well, I would like to, before we start, because our conversation today is, the children in Thailand were rescued from the cave and the coach. And there's been such an outpour of love and, people have been tied in everywhere around the world to this story and the rescue of these children. So our conversation today is around that and why it is that in this situation we can be so engaged, but perhaps in with the border children or children that are in detention all over, that's not just in the US, it's in other countries too. Why is it's not getting the same amount of attention? Why doesn't it captivate our hearts as much? What's different? So we're going to be talking about that today. And before we do, I do want to go back to, we're only as free as, and Shivani, if you want to go ahead and read.
Yeah, I'll find it.
Okay.
Okay, I love that. Okay. You're only as free as you allow yourself to be, as you feel you are, as you let yourself be, as your mind and body allows, as you desire to be, as you believe you are, as you dare to be. And then we have some funny ones. It will crack me up. I loved it. Okay, you are only as free as your dog allows you to be. Our dog rules us. Exclamation mark. You're only as free as your cat allows you to be.
That is real true.
That is true.
Yeah. You're only as free as you are present in this moment, as your heart is open, as the belief systems you hold onto, as you tread lightly and remain open and flexible lest your beliefs become your prison bars, as your courage to express who you really are.
And that's what we've already been talking about today. So.
And Robert said, we sometimes live in a self-imposed prison of our limited beliefs, definitely. And to live a more fulfilling life, we should be willing and able to drop beliefs that no longer serve us as easily as dropping a pencil.
And that's exactly thank you for that. That's exactly the opportunity that we have under that eclipse to do what he just said. Literally, okay, wow, I've believed this. This doesn't serve me. It's going. That's beautiful.
Yeah, because then you're only as free as your need for perfection, your willingness to let go of being right. That's a big one.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
And perfection. I know some people that are really OCD about things that are in constant prison by their perfection. In fact, they don't really move forward as quickly as they could in their careers because they're trying to get everything perfect first.
Yeah. You're only as free as the hold your prejudice have on you. Hold on loosely. That's, dropping the pencil.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah. You're only as free as the hold your addictions have on you. That could be another show. I mean, we're such an addictive and addicted society these days.
Mm-hmm.
You listen to your innate being at your heart and soul level, your ability to control your reactions. Ooh, I like that. You're only as free as your ability to forgive. So there you go. That was the last one.
Good.
Beautiful. A lot of great comments, and I want to thank everyone for that. Because, there were literally hundreds, and I just pared it down. There were so many that were very similar. So I just put, I collected the ones that were a little bit different. And I just thank you all for that. The topic tonight, as I said, are these children. And, I'm so just grateful. We've all been praying that they are that they are freed from being in the cave, that they're rescued from being in the cave. And they have been. All of them are out now. And the coach is out, and everybody's safe. Ferris, you want to go ahead and tell everybody I think he kind of read through this.
The owl stuff.
Tell everybody what. They're all out. There was one death.
That's
It's the diver.
Yeah. A Thai SEAL, Navy SEAL diver was killed, helping them get out. They're all in the hospital. It didn't occur to me that they're going to have some health problems for quite a while. If nothing else, just because they were out of the sun for 2 weeks with no light.
Oh.
Not to mention whatever critters they picked up. Bacteria.
Yeah, bacteria. Yeah. And 2, I think, have pneumonia.
And malnutrition.
But they do expect everybody to be fine, don't they?
Oh, yeah. It is amazing. 1.5 miles.
Wow.
Wow.
In that cave.
That is something. Well, what came to our attention, and this was really, Shivani is the one that found this article. And Shivani, you want to just talk about this? And we just thought this is, actually, we were talking about this, and then she found the article once we started talking about it. So we actually had the same ideas as other people were writing about too. So we thought, okay, that confirms that what we're saying is an important topic.
Yeah, so basically we meet obviously before our show, and we try and work out, okay, what is the next subject? What would interest you as the viewer? And so I was, as maybe most of you, glued on the news with the rescue. And of course it's heartwarming, and like I was like everyone, I hope they get them out. And then we realized, well, I'm wondering, okay, so the whole world is glued on that story, and our heart is open, and we're all wanting the same. But when we see other news involving children, so for example in Australia we have 200 kids that are imprisoned because they came as refugees. Same in the States, there are kids that are gassed in Iran, Iraq. And so we were actually wondering, okay, so how come the cave story gets all this attention while the other stories still involving kids don't? Or they get some attention and then it's old news.
And before anybody writes in, we are not anti the kids in the cave.
Right. Not whatsoever. We were
Not at all. We are deliriously happy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Right there, praying and sending healing energy to the kids and surrounding them with love and light. You know, that's what we could do from here. So that's what we did, just like everybody else.
Yeah. And then I saw an article while we actually researched. There was an article exactly about that. How come the kids in the cave get so much media attention, and the kids in the States that are still lost, or the kids in Iran, or kids anywhere suffering, don't? Yeah, it's not like, yes, there's some media attention, but in comparison to what's happening with the cave kids, it's not a lot. And so, so we wanted to talk about that.
And one of the things that it said was that, you know, with the kids in the cave, there was hope. We saw an end. We saw a rescue. There was an opportunity. There was a time limit. You know, there was a deadline for getting them out safely. So that's, you know, that's one thing. It's a, you know, it's a story that we can see an ending to.
You know what, Cindy? Just before we started, it occurred to me, there's also a bit of novelty to the story. Not to make little of it, but it's different.
Yeah. That's
true.
Yeah.
I think also one of the main things is that these kids have, even subconsciously, right, have done nothing wrong. They could be your son and daughter, your son basically. Yeah, they explored a cave and it went wrong. Mm-hmm. While some people subconsciously, maybe with the kids that are held in detention, well, if the parents wouldn't have come to the States or to trying to come to Australia or wherever, that wouldn't have happened. So maybe there's less empathy.
Well, and also maybe something around human power, you know, and control in the kids with detention, and the power of nature, you know, in terms of the cave. And the other thing that's occurred to me just since we talked about it, and again, this would be after all is said and done and interpreted perhaps, but I think they also represent the part of each of us who is coming out of our own cave, whatever that means for anyone. The cave of darkness, the cave of fear. You know, it's interesting that all of this happened as Jupiter was moving forward yesterday in Scorpio. So, you know, it's like each one of us has that part of us. And it's like these 12 and the coach and the one who died, you know, again, they sort of stepped up to put that kind of attention. You know, I think on an unconscious level, that's one of the reasons, even though most people are not conscious of what I'm saying, you guys are, and hopefully some of the folks that are listening are. But I mean, because we can be in a cave of our own making, or we can be in a cave where some control we feel put us in the cave, if you will.
And it's the typical hero's journey, isn't it?
Totally.
I mean, picture book.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Apart from the Thai Navy SEAL diver, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And just okay. If our government, here we have a comment, Eileen. If our government would simply do an DNA tests on all the children and all the parents that have been separated and put this information together on a website, they could immediately match them up and know where they are so they can be brought back together. Yeah.
Good job, Aileen.
Yeah, I agree.
That's exactly it. We were saying, you know, we should have Amazon handle it.
Actually, they are doing DNA tests.
Are they doing DNA? Okay, great.
And I just read a little while ago that in some cases, they told the parents that the parents were going to have to pay for the DNA test.
Well, there's control again.
Yeah.
I mean,
you know, and I think part of this whole thing with it not getting maybe the attention that the children in the cave received is we're shaking our heads going, we're in disbelief here. Like this, How can this happen?
Well, and the contingent that somehow believes they deserve it also. In other words, that we don't agree with, but where pretty much everybody can get on board to get the kids out of the cave.
But you're comparing two stories here, and the greater picture is there are lots of tragic events going on in the world right now that we're not paying attention to.
Sure.
Yeah, like you were talking about, Shivani, the detained children there in Australia. I mean, there are things happening all over the place that don't get the attention. So, our exploration here is not to say one's worse than the other. They're all tragic. It's why does the media choose that? And one of the things the article was saying is the language. Well, there was an example, I think, of the language in there that, let me see, I'm going to see if I guess I didn't write it down. Do you have it there, Shivani?
Let me have a look. I should have. Yep, hang on.
Yeah, they, instead of, these children were innocently going out and they got caught in a cave,
Okay, language is, okay. The labels we attach are also crucial in determining our response.
Mm-hmm.
For example, in 2016, okay, that's a Australian article. So in 2016, the then Prime Minister, Tony Abbott, referred to asylum seekers as an invading force, right? This sort of language is incredibly damaging because when trying to make sense of a moral injustice, we immediately look to identify both a victim and a villain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the other thing is, like in Australia, now we have offshore processing. I think we still have some centers, but the access is severely restricted. The media doesn't get access. And it's only when you have a whistleblower that suddenly, it's exposed what's happening. And I don't know how it's in the States, but you actually, when you say, okay, how come the media is all over the cave story? Well, that wasn't limiting their access.
Yeah, that's a great point because you can't get in.
And if you can't see pictures, I think it's only when you really see pictures that are disturbing that we go, oh my God, my heart hurts here. What can I do? Yeah.
And that's it.
And the language, Trump is, I think, very much saying, well, that's what I saw on TV last night, like, do not come to America. That's the moral of the story. Don't complain about the kids not being united quick enough. Don't come to America in the first place. What are you talking about, right?
So from a soul perspective, how do we look at this? How do we see this from a soul view? What would be our soul lesson?
Well, first of all, I really believe we are all one. Literally, like what you see over there is still, we are all one. It's part of me, regardless.
Right.
Because even if you think of the air that you're breathing right now, that you're breathing in and out, is really the air of the whole planet.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, we're also one with those people who are doing what we're criticizing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Please don't tell me I'm one with Trump. I'm sorry.
I wasn't going to use the name, but there it is.
I'm sorry, everybody. I try never to.
It just has a name on it. It's an energy.
Well, as a soul, yeah, of course we are.
Today.
But I mean, it really is interesting when you think about it, all that is being railed again at him, which is true. And we elected him. So the point is, you know, on a soul level, it's, again, we can somehow just believe that out of all of this, whatever this is, good will come on some level. Because this person, called whatever you want to call him, didn't just appear in office. You know, he didn't just drop out of the sky. You know, people, however that happened, what doesn't matter how it happened. Point is, it happened.
Yeah, and just like in Australia or any other country, you know, we have elected, well, sometimes, and sometimes it's a dictatorship, you know, that's predicting things. So how do you make sense of it from a soul view? Is it true forgiveness and empathy? Is it understanding that there's, and we've talked about this before, we talked about this 2 weeks ago, there's a monster in all of us.
Right.
You know, there's the angel and there's the monster. And we've each experienced that side, and we don't like that side, and we try and bury that side. We try and hide that side. And sometimes we forget that's who we learn the most about ourselves from.
Right.
Mm.
Well, it's like,
also, you know, like if the way I see it, so like in spirit or in heaven or whatever word you want to use, we are all one. Okay, so on that level, on 5D, we are all one. On a soul level, then we come to the earth plane and we have the duality, right? Without hot, we don't have cold. Without love, we don't have hate. Yeah, we are in a world of duality. And so somebody like Hitler or Trump or any other dictator, I'm not trying to harp on hump. Harp on hump. Harp on hump. Harp on. But
in some circles, that would be right.
Oh my God.
I didn't
know.
Erase.
I may have to leave y'all.
your Scorpio moon can handle it, Ferris.
Yeah.
You fit right in this group of all of us having Scorpio energy. whatever level it expresses on.
So, okay, so here we are on planet Earth, and now we have our personalities, and we have the duality we are working with. And so you come across a dictator, you come across somebody, it doesn't matter, your mom that you hate or don't like. And then I think you have the opportunity to become the biggest version that you can be. Yeah. So that could be, look, I mean, I look, because my ancestry, obviously, being German, you know, my parents were part of Hitler. And for example, I had long discussions about my dad, who ended up in the trenches, basically, when he was 17, fighting for Hitler. How does that happen? All right. So, but in general, I think it's about becoming aware and then doing what is there in your heart. And as Cindy says, that for Cindy, it could be demonstrating or, you know, being the whistleblower. For other people, it might be, I need to leave the country. For other people, they have prayer circles. Yeah, it's really, who am I in relation to what is happening that I see happening? And that is the soul view, I think, because that is, so how do I behave?
Well, and how do I mean, here we are coming up on a Cancer new moon in terms of feeling safe, nurtured, secure, nourished, nurtured. How do all of us could be asking the question, where we rescue ourselves from our own cave. So to me, if we look at this headline, yes, the story is what it is, and it's wonderful that it's turned out the way it did. And again, if everything is happening to all of us, then I think everybody can get a piece of this. Okay, where do I need to be my own rescuer from where I am in my own cave, whatever that means, where I am shrouded in my own darkness because I can't look at this, or I can't own that, or, oh, how could I be the perpetrator? Oh, I couldn't be the one that's manipulating. Oh, no, so again, you know, what happens to one happens to all on some level. And so For me, I'm always going for what is that underlying connection for all humanity in this particular circumstance that makes sense to me.
The other part of this is, looking at where whoever it is that's enforcing these laws, where they're coming from. Because all of us have, actually the opposite of love is fear. And fear is where most people are coming from, that somebody's going to get the upper hand on me. They're going to get something better than I have. They're going to, try and control me, or fear that you're not going to be loved or liked, and so you look at the behavior of who's ever setting those laws, putting everything into motion, and you see a lot of fear. And where in my own life am I imprisoning myself with these fears?
Absolutely. Totally.
So that's another soul view. And who have I imprisoned?
Yes.
By putting them in a state of fear.
Totally.
Because we all manipulate. We try to control people. And so where's the dictator in us? So it gives us that opportunity to look at our own stuff.
Yeah.
And again, that's not saying that behavior is okay. We're just saying each of us get the opportunity to look at ourselves as well. Let's not make this just a one-way street.
Right.
Well, that's the duality. Unless we see something we react about, we don't, that's the part that's in some ways exciting, because that is planet Earth duality.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I get pissed off about something. Well, here I've got the duality.
Yeah.
No, it's not duality. It's just wrong.
I'm going to tell a story on Ferris real quick. I could tell many stories on Ferris, but this one, we were on our way to a photo shoot, and we were running a little bit late, and the guy in front of us.
Behind us.
No, it was the guy in front of us. Was it the guy behind us? Okay. The guy behind us, no, it was the guy in front of us, ran a red light. And then Ferris ran the red light too. And he said, that asshole ran the red light. And I said, well, so did you. He said, that's different. And I said, how come? He said, because it was me.
No,
forgive me.
Forgive me.
That's right. Ferris, you're special.
Yeah. And that's the way it is for all of us. We forgive ourselves for our own shortcomings. And this gives us an opportunity to go, okay, where am I? Right. Where am I the dictator? Where am I imposing rules on people that may cause them fear or anger or injustice?
And if more people would actually focus there, that's how the outer reality will shift. Without that focus, nothing out there is going to shift. So that's beautiful that you say that, because I totally believe that as well.
What comments do we have here?
Cynthia and said the children and all participants signed up for this experience. They all created the outcome of the experience. Even the children co-created the outcome. Yes, on the soul level they did. But my question to you is, if little Timmy falls down the well, do you just say, well, you created it, and walk away?
And that is where a lot of people get confused, because as I said, our disclaimer at the very beginning, we aren't saying don't act. We aren't saying don't do anything. We are saying do something and take a soul view of how this is going to be working in your life. What does it give you an opportunity to look at?
And we're not taking any sides on, as far as this discussion is concerned, on who's right and who's wrong. Now, afterwards, I'll tell you. because I know.
And so, so the question I think we all can ask ourselves is, what is the bigger or biggest version I can be right now? Yeah, so could that be writing a petition? Could that be to actually visiting the children, like in America? Could that be grabbing a microphone and speaking out for the first time? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's individual.
Mm-hmm.
And Shivani, like you said, we are involved, whether we do anything or not.
We are.
Right. Yeah. And I'm like way back in the 90s, I lived in Sydney. And for example, I decided to teach yoga, offered yoga for free in one of the detention centers, which was a huge eye-opener. You know, so it's like, okay, what can you do? You know, like I was up in arms what happened in Australia back then. And so it was like, well, what can I do? Okay, I'm a yoga teacher. So it didn't work that well because yoga is the way I teach, it's so verbal. And so most of them couldn't understand me. But it still was great to, I had a good insight of what's happening inside.
One of the comments that we had that I want to bring up, because we've had a couple people mention this, can we leave politics out of it? Remember, the goal of this show is to take what's in the news and look at it from the soul view. So if that's what's in the news, that's the only reason we're bringing it up. What's ever in the news is what we do want to bring up. Mm-hmm. So we're not picking politics. Right. It just, because of what's going on, especially in the U.S. right now, it's in the news more than it's ever been. Mm-hmm. And I would just as soon not have it either. Let me see. Let's see here. Tracy says, with war zone areas and children in detention, it feels like nothing can be done to help. Mm. Yeah. And you have
overwhelming.
Yeah. And I get that too, because I have felt that. What can I do to act? What actions can I take? And Tracy said, let me see, I gave the question about the Thai boys some thought. For me, I felt there was a chance with a united effort for the boys, they stood a chance to be freed. And that's true. So great point.
Mm-hmm. And it brought, if you have a look, it brought out the best of humanity.
It did.
Here's a thought.
How amazing, everybody, like I know Australia was heavily involved, brought their people and the Thais and US, and how amazing. So we have demonstrated as
that regardless
human beings that we are capable of doing it.
Oh. Yeah.
Why can't we send that same kind of energy to other people all the time?
Yeah,
we can.
It's possible.
Mm-hmm.
It is possible, and it's we have to allow ourselves to do that.
We forget.
Yeah, we do. We forget. And again, the spin on it. One person's a villain. We portray these boys as victims of these circumstances, and the others are not victims. They're villains. So that's part of it. And one of the parts in this article that we talked about too is a lot of times, depending on where people live, particularly in the South, God becomes the villain. Is what it was saying, or in particular areas, God becomes the villain. God let this happen, and so that's a whole nother conversation, a level of the conversation. We are extensions of God. So if God allowed it, we allowed it.
Right.
So we're one. We're not separate from. We're one with God, and God wanted to experience all of these things, and he experiences all these things through us. So what other comments do we have over there? And I check Facebook again.
Well, we've got Zoom. Cynthia, the coach taught the children to meditate and why to meditate. That, I believe, is the message to the world. Be still, center, and we on the outside state focus in love prayers and focusing on the positive outcome for all. And Maureen says, in a world of duality, adversity brings each of us the opportunity to see our own dark, yet choose to bring out our light. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments or insights, Shabani?
No, that's it for Zoom.
Okay. All right. And I think that's it for Facebook. And again, I just want to call out to Sue. Thank you for putting that in there so we could explain to people this isn't a political show. This is about what's in the news. What's ever making the headlines. We're not going to, we're not going to just pick things that are not political. We've covered a wide range of topics.
Mm-hmm.
And the political stuff, unfortunately, keeps coming to the top because there's so much change. And that change affects each and every one of us every day. Mm-hmm. And in all countries, not just ours.
Well, and the fact that something is in the news means that attention is being drawn to it. Right. So we can all learn something from a soul view, no matter what topic we pick that's in the news. I mean, that's the intention, certainly.
Yeah. And also be aware how it is portrayed. Yeah, is the news reporting, is it neutral? Or is there an undertone?
There's no neutral news.
Well,
it's written by humans.
Yeah. And it's not neutral like it used to be because people are, remember this. Now, I come from the world of broadcasting, so I'm going to speak as as someone from that world. There used to be the nightly news at 5 or 6 o'clock and then at 10 o'clock, and that was it. Now there's all these cable stations and, the cable stations, and it's around the clock. Mm-hmm. And they are under pressure to have the breaking news of the moment. That's why everything is breaking news. This just in, and it's not. It's different than it used to be. And they want people's opinion. And people are asking people for their opinion.
And they have to fill every minute of every day.
That's right.
With something.
Yeah. Right.
Whether it's...
And the more shocking it is, the more ratings they get, I guess.
And whether it's accurate or not, they've got to have some space, something in there that's nothing worse than dead air.
That's exactly right. So. Well, I thank you all for the wonderful comments. And let me see if we've got some more here. Sue says, you're defending your behavior. And that's ego, not soul.
What you mean anytime we defend our behavior? Is that what you mean?
I'm not exactly sure. Please leave political figures out of it.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not going to happen, Sue. So this may not be the venue for you. If again, we're going to look at what's in the headlines and report on that from a soul perspective, regardless of who it's about.
Well, and whoever it's about anyway is just a representative of your energy. So it really, on some level, doesn't matter whose name is on it.
Yeah. But I really thank you for your opinion on that. And this is the show that we created. So let me see. Tracy says, with war zone areas and children in it. That I already read that one. Okay, excuse me. So I've already got that one. So please leave your questions and comments. And once again, that was the whole reason for us forming this, is to look at the news, what's going on, and we fully embrace
Mm-hmm.
what our goal was when we started this. It felt truly like a soul mission for all four of us when this started. We were being called to do this, and we are stepping into that calling.
And also, I think we are doing our best not to judge any of the leaders or anything that's happening. Yeah, that's the whole idea, to bring to the light what's happening, but also look at the soul view. And the soul view, ultimately, on that level, everything is perfect.
And if any of us joke around and make fun of anybody, know that we do that with ourselves too. So, we've got to learn to laugh, because if you want to stay healthy, if you want to really enjoy life, you got to lighten up. We all have to laugh.
If you can't laugh at it, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
What's that, Lorelei?
Another judgment.
Yeah.
And that's it.
But again, from a Ho'oponopono, from a Ho'oponopono perspective, if it's up, it just needs to be cleaned. It just needs to be cleaned. And so anything that's up, if somebody doesn't know what to do, or isn't a physical activist or whatever, you can pray, you can clean, because it's all if it's up in our field, it belongs to all of us. So each one of us has our own cleaning regimen to do. And so that's where I'm hanging out with all of this. Because I mean, that sense of helplessness, what can I do? Well, one thing we can do is clean what's up, which helps to clean what's out there.
Yeah. And that comes back to, we are all one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then another thing that Sue wrote back in and says, I want this to be love and light, and that's it.
Yeah, we all do.
Yeah. And that too is a judgment.
Cindy, can I say it again?
Yeah.
That ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
We're human beings. We all have opinions. And if we are, yes, we want to bring up the love and the light. Remember, light is also humor. But the light is doesn't mean that you ignore what's going on. It doesn't mean that you excuse what's going on.
There's a comment here from Aileen, beautiful Gemini, and the moon's in Gemini here. Oh no, it's in Cancer. I appreciate that you are speaking honestly and from your hearts. This is an important session for me, and I agree with everything you are saying. Thanks for your courage and integrity. Mirror, mirror.
Love it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you, Aileen.
Yeah. And that's the thing. We are in duality, so we can't we can, because we have free will. But ideally, we look at both sides. Not just, yes, we all want love and light, but we are here on the physical. It's about grounding, being in the body, and really noticing what's happening.
Well, and look how much the kids in the cave needed love and light. Yeah. Right? I mean, again, being in the dark for that period of time. So again, it's representative of each one of us that's in our own darkness and in our own cave, wherever that is. And
if nobody had taken action, they would not have gotten out. So this is all about, taking action. So, well, I think that this has been wonderful, you guys. I apologize for the hoarseness. Glad we all made it through, because I think at least 3 of us are a little under the weather here. And we appreciate you being with us here today. This is, this is a calling for the 4 of us. And we're going to continue to do this to the best of our ability. Will we get it 100%? No, because we're human. We'll make mistakes along the way. We're gonna piss some people off, and that's
we'll
okay.
Tell on ourselves when we do.
Yeah, and we do. I didn't shy away from those responses, because I'm not here to say that someone else is wrong. Just we've got to own it all. Final thoughts, everybody.
Again, we're coming up on a new moon tomorrow, 10:48 p.m. Eastern time. So this is dark of the moon tomorrow, most of the day Eastern time, dark of the moon. That's the time to just let it all go. Like any doubt, any worry, any anxiety, any fear, it's like just release it and trust, essentially.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, well, much love to all of you. Thank you for joining us today. Until next time, namaste.
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 Namaste, and I send y'all light.
And love.